A wealthy man leaves his twin sons in the river, believing he has concealed his deepest secret for all time. Yet, after 18 long years, a call arrives that rattles him to his very foundation. The twins, against all odds, lived through that fateful night. And now they have come back with a strategy that has been crafted over many years. His seemingly flawless existence is on the brink of disintegration, unraveling gradually, thread by thread. Who rescued the boys? Where have they gone? What is it that they desire now? Before we dive into the narrative, please share in the comments your location in the world as you tune in today. If you enjoyed this tale, be sure to subscribe for more. The urban glow danced beneath ominous clouds while distant thunder grumbled ominously. The rain hammered down on the deserted streets, forming glistening sheets of water that mirrored the looming tempest. In his polished black Mercedes, Victor Gray maneuvered the steering wheel with unwavering precision, his tailored suit immaculate even in the dreary weather. His icy gaze remained locked on the serpentine path of the forest, obscured just enough by the steady motion of the windshield wipers. In the back seat, the 3-year-old twins, Callum and Silas, sat in serene silence, their tiny forms overshadowed by their car seats. Their coordinating blue pajamas featured delicate sailboat patterns, a thoughtful present from their mother. With wonder in their eyes, they observed the raindrops as they sped down the windows, creating intricate designs in the shadows. Neither boy grasped the reason their father had roused them at such a late hour, nor could they fathom why Mommy was absent from their special nighttime adventure. The radio emitted a soft melody, a soothing lullaby that felt oddly incongruous against the backdrop of the tempestuous night. "Quiet now, dear child. Keep your silence." The tune intertwined with the rhythmic patter of rain against the roof and the gentle swish of the wipers. Callum held tightly to his beloved stuffed elephant, his cherished companion for bedtime adventures. Beside him, Silas placed his tiny hand on the chilly window pane, following the journey of the water droplets with his fingertip. The atmosphere inside the car was dense with unspoken tension, yet the boys, still in their youth, lacked the words to articulate the weighty sensation surrounding them. Victor hardly cast a look at his sons reflected in the rearview mirror. His jaw was clenched, his knuckles pale against the steering wheel. To him, these children represented a misstep, a tangible reminder of an indiscretion that jeopardized all he had worked to establish. His technological dominion, his standing, his meticulously crafted persona. Everything could collapse if anyone uncovered their presence. The answer needed to be lasting. The Mercedes decelerated as it neared a weathered steel bridge arching over a profound river gorge. The edifice stood tall, its steel framework stark against the jagged bursts of lightning. Victor drove onto the bridge and halted halfway, shifting the car into park. The rain intensified, pounding against the roof while thunder rumbled ominously above, causing both boys to startle. "Time for our adventure," Victor declared, his voice unsettlingly serene as he ventured into the torrential rain. As he swung open the back door, the rainwater rushed in, quickly saturating his costly suit. With precise motions, he unfastened Callum first, followed by Silas, carefully lifting them onto the slick surface of the bridge. The twins nestled closely, trembling in their flimsy pajamas. Callum's elephant slipped from his fingers, tumbling into a puddle. Silas extended his hand toward his brother, while their father pulled a black duffel bag from the trunk. "Father," Callum's voice trembled. "Fear grips me." Victor remained silent. He crouched low, retrieving what appeared to be small ankle weights. With swift, precise motions, he secured them to each boy's legs, disregarding their bewildered whimpers and their attempts to retreat from his grasp. "Remain where you are," he commanded with a piercing tone as Silas attempted to step back. The young child stood still, his tears blending with the raindrops that adorned his cheeks. With another flash of lightning, Victor's face was momentarily revealed in stark relief. There was an absence of warmth, devoid of hesitation, only a chilling resolve as he hoisted Callum first, followed by Silas, over the bridge's metal railing. The boys wept more intensely now, their tiny hands clutching his sleeves in fear. "This is for the best," Victor said flatly, his gaze fixed on the turbulent water below. The river surged with the recent downpour, its surface disrupted by protruding stones and swirling eddies. Callum let out a piercing scream as Victor's grip finally loosened. The sound sliced through the darkness, abruptly silenced as the two boys dove into the frigid water. The burdens weighed heavily upon them, swiftly drawing them into the river's shadowy grasp. Yet destiny, or maybe just mere coincidence, stepped in. As they descended, Silas's leg brushed against a hidden branch beneath the surface. The force released his burden, and sheer instinct for survival drove him to kick with greater intensity until it was gone entirely. Amidst the murky water, he caught sight of his brother grappling with the currents nearby. Callum struggled fiercely against the relentless current, his own weight dragging him down. Yet the river's current propelled him toward a colossal boulder, and his tiny hands grasped its rugged texture. As he hung on, Silas approached him, his small fingers deftly unfastening the straps of Callum's weight until it slipped away into the abyss. United, they battled their way to the top of the boulder, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They surfaced, breathless and bruised by the relentless downpour and swirling waters, yet they were still among the living. The twins heaved themselves onto the flat expanse of the rock, their pajamas tattered, bodies marked with bruises, trembling uncontrollably from the chill and terror that gripped them. Overhead, the bridge loomed desolate. Their father had vanished, leaving behind only a drenched stuffed elephant ensnared in the nearby rocks, its formerly joyful expression now a mute testament to their endurance. As their strength waned, both boys fell to the unforgiving stone beneath them. The tempest started to subside, its rage exhausted. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, a modest fishing boat emerged from around the river's bend, its lone occupant blissfully unaware of the extraordinary events, both miraculous and tragic, that had just transpired in these waters. The twins lay in a state of unconsciousness, yet their breaths were steady, small hands intertwined, having confronted death and risen from its depths, forging a connection that would define their future. The morning sun bathed the river in soft gold, its rays illuminating the delicate mist that hovered above the water's surface. Lars maneuvered his modest fishing boat around the curve, his seasoned hands firm on the tiller. The aged engine murmured gently, creating delicate waves on the serene surface of the water. The worn navy tattoo, an anchor entwined in rope, emerged from beneath his rolled sleeve as he extended his arm to adjust the nets trailing behind the boat. After 4 decades navigating these waters, Lars had learned to interpret every ripple and current, yet nothing in his extensive fishing experience had equipped him for the sight that greeted him that morning. Amidst the dissipating mist, an intriguing sight drew his attention. 2 diminutive shapes resting still upon a grand boulder by the water's edge. Lars silenced the engine, allowing the vessel to glide nearer. His heart felt as if it had frozen in time as the forms took shape. 2 little boys, drenched and disheveled, their coordinating pajamas tattered and stained with mud. They lay entwined like slumbering pups, yet utterly motionless. "Dear God," Lars whispered, already preparing to drop anchor. With a deft touch, he fastened the boat and ascended the slick boulder. In close proximity, he observed their lips tinged with blue, the scratches adorning their arms and faces. Yet, as he pressed his calloused fingers to their necks, he discovered feeble pulses fluttering beneath the chill of their skin. Alive yet on the brink, Lars didn't linger on the thoughts of how they had arrived at this moment. Inquiries can be addressed at a later time. At this moment, these boys were in need of assistance. He collected them, one cradled in each arm, observing how weightless they seemed, akin to lifting a pair of damp sparrows. Their skin felt like frost against his chest as he cautiously navigated his way back to the boat. The trek to his cabin spanned 20 minutes, a time during which Lars enveloped the boys in the emergency blankets he had stowed away on board. Neither moved. Their delicate features stayed relaxed, with dark lashes contrasting sharply against their fair skin. A fierce and protective instinct surged within Lars' chest. It was a sensation he hadn't experienced since his time in special operations, when the weight of his team's lives rested squarely on his shoulders. Nestled deep within the forest, His cabin was a half-mile away from the closest dirt road. Lars had selected it deliberately for its seclusion following his departure from the military. No power lines extended this far out. He harnessed his own energy and sourced water from a well. An ideal spot for vanishing or concealing someone who required secrecy. Inside, Lars placed the boys on his bed, removing their soaked clothes and enveloping them in cozy, dry blankets. He stoked the flames in the wood stove and set a pot of water to heat. As he toiled, his military background emerged, evaluating their circumstances with sharp accuracy. Severe hypothermia, initial signs of frostbite on fingers and toes, numerous contusions, potential concussion. Yet, it was their alarming frailty that troubled him the most. The neglect of these children had begun long before the incident that stranded them on that rock. Their ribs were stark against the pale skin, and their faces appeared gaunt, even with the roundness of baby cheeks. For the next few hours, Lars kept a close watch on their temperatures, carefully feeding warm broth between their blue-tinged lips whenever possible. His thoughts wandered to a different era, a distant location. Young men under his leadership, battered and wounded in distant sands. He had discovered how to set aside feelings, concentrating solely on the task of preserving lives. Yet these were young ones, and the sight of their matching features awakened recollections he preferred to leave behind. Time slipped away in a haze of unwavering attention. The boys floated between the realms of awareness and oblivion, never quite emerging into full wakefulness. Lars tended to their wounds, carefully bandaging their frostbitten limbs, and gently encouraged them to take in nourishment, drop by drop. He remained in the cabin, venturing out only to inspect his generator and gather additional firewood. Sleep arrived in fleeting moments, overtaken by waves of exhaustion. In those dusky hours, the boys started to converse, not fully conscious, but ensnared in their fevered imaginings. Their soft voices echoed in the stillness of the cabin. "Father, I implore you." Chilled liquid. The bridge evokes a sense of fear. Lars absorbed their words, weaving together the threads of their recollections. A dad. Connection. Liquid shadows. The image taking shape in his mind was grotesque, yet oddly recognizable. He had witnessed enough of humanity's shadows during his time with Opal's Psychological Operations Division to discern the contours of violence, even when it bore the guise of a parent. When the boys finally opened their eyes, fully aware, nearly 2 weeks had passed. Lars gazed into matching pairs of brown eyes, weighed down by confusion and fear. They nestled closely in his bed, observing his every action with cautious focus. "Where is Daddy?" one murmured. His brother tightened his grip on his hand. "You're safe here," Lars said softly, placing bowls of warm soup on the bedside table. At this moment, that's the only thing of significance. In the days that followed, the twins steadily gained strength. Lars familiarized himself with their names, Callum and Silas, though he needed to observe closely to distinguish between them. They exchanged few words, relying instead on glances and gentle gestures to convey their feelings. Yet, they started to place their trust in him, embracing his care with growing assurance. Lars was aware that he ought to inform someone about discovering them. Child Services would be interested in the situation involving 2 abandoned 3-year-olds. Yet, an unseen force restrained him. His time in Opal had honed his ability to discern patterns, to perceive the hidden connections behind what appeared to be random occurrences. These boys were not left behind. They had become the focus of attention, and anyone who had attempted to eliminate them might make another attempt if they reappeared in the system. On a stormy night, with rain pounding against the cabin windows, the twins nestled together on the couch as Lars tended to the flickering fire. Thunder rumbled ominously above, causing them to flinch. As he glanced back at them, he noticed their expressions were strained with apprehension. "Are you our father now?" Callum inquired gently. Silas observed with unwavering focus, anticipating the response. Lars took his time to respond. Instead, he strolled to the far corner of the cabin, where a neglected footlocker had remained undisturbed for years. The boys observed as he extracted it and unveiled files labeled Opal, PsyOps, and faded military stamp. Seated at his desk, Lars commenced to write, tapping into years of tactical expertise. These boys would require more than merely a refuge. They would require instruments to endure the shadows that had destined them for demise. He had the ability to impart that knowledge to them. Beyond mere survival techniques, it encompasses understanding human behavior, recognizing threats, and mastering the art of vanishing when the situation demands. The twins observed him labor, the thunder rumbling ominously beyond the walls. They were puzzled by what he was putting down on paper, yet there was a certain reassurance in Lars' intense demeanor that seemed to ease their confusion. They nestled together on the couch, surrendering to slumber as the tempest howled outside. The morning air was invigorating, filled with the essence of early spring, as Lars brought an aged wooden chessboard to the cabin's front porch. Callum and Silas, now 6 years old, observed with keen interest as their guardian meticulously arranged the pieces, detailing each one's name and movement pattern. "This game is life," Lars told them, his seasoned hands poised above the board. "Victory comes from foresight, not through anger." The twins positioned themselves cross-legged on opposite sides of the board, their identical brown eyes fixed on the pieces with unwavering concentration. Lars observed the subtle ways in which their personalities started to drift apart. Callum's eyes were sharp and discerning, while Silas watched with a calm and steady demeanor. As the seasons shifted, the chess lessons transformed into a profound journey. Lars intricately blended strategy and survival into each game, guiding them to envision 3, 5, even 10 moves into the future. In subtle hints, your adversary reveals their strategy, he would assert. Observe, absorb, evolve. The training extended far beyond the confines of the chessboard. Every morning unfolded with runs through the forest, where their tiny feet mastered the art of moving quietly over fallen leaves and shattered branches. Lars guided them in understanding the forest, revealing which plants held the power to heal and which ones posed a threat. Ways to determine north without relying on a compass. At just 8 years old, the twins tackled intricate puzzles as Lars kept track of their time, their thoughts racing in a thrilling competition with the clock. He crafted situations, guiding them to navigate their thoughts amidst pressure. Life seldom allows for moments of doubt, he reminded them. Callum exhibited an innate talent for language and tactical thinking. Lars collaborated with him on speech patterns, guiding him on how to modify his tone and select his words to sway others. They engaged in dialogues, with Lars assuming various characters. Furious outsider, amiable local, dubious figure of authority. Callum discovered how to tailor his method for every circumstance. Silas, possessing a keen sense of physicality, thrived in the realms of movement and keen observation. Lars instructed him on how to merge with the shadows, to alter his stance and stride, rendering himself invisible. The young lad developed an extraordinary skill for interpreting body language, discerning even the faintest cues that unveiled the genuine motives of those around him. As they matured, Lars unveiled increasingly sophisticated abilities. At the age of 12, they were acquiring foundational skills in coding and surveillance methods. He instructed them on the art of sweeping for listening devices, securing communications, and gathering intelligence while remaining undetected. The vintage military gear from his OPAL days took on a fresh role as training instruments. The twins crafted a unique form of communication, a blend of delicate gestures and knowing looks that enabled them to convey their thoughts without uttering a single word. They moved in flawless harmony, each enhancing the other's abilities. Callum devised the strategies, while Silas brought them to life, and together they transformed into a force greater than their individual contributions. As they navigated their teenage years, the training grew more rigorous. Lars urged them on with increased intensity, aware that his time was running out. He began to cough more often, meticulously concealing the blood-stained handkerchiefs from the boys. Yet he could not conceal the increasing frailty of his form, how even the most mundane activities left him breathless. Yet he continued to push forward. He imparted all his knowledge on tactical deception, on the art of crafting and sustaining cover identities, and on navigating a world that could become hostile at any instant. The twins took it all in, their minds and bodies transforming into finely tuned instruments. The teachings extended far beyond mere physical and mental abilities. Lars imparted lessons on honor, emphasizing the importance of safeguarding those who were unable to defend themselves. Strength devoid of intention is merely brutality, he would assert. Discover a cause that ignites your passion. On the day they turned 16, Lars summoned them to his study. The twins stepped inside to discover 3 envelopes waiting on his desk. Their guardian's expression was serious as he distributed packets to each of them, each containing new identities along with passports and documentation designed to endure any examination. When the river beckons, Lars shared, his voice thick with feeling. Prepare yourself to respond. He left his thoughts unspoken, and they chose not to inquire. Years of honing their craft had instilled in them the understanding that certain inquiries were best kept silent. That evening, Lars retired to his bed prematurely, voicing his weariness. The twins discovered him the following morning, serene in slumber, his aged visage finally at peace. They laid him to rest beneath the ancient oak tree, the very place where they had first discovered the game of chess, marking the site with a humble stone. Silence enveloped them as they stood at the grave, no words necessary. A decade of rigorous preparation had led them to this pivotal moment, yet no amount of training could truly equip them for the profound absence of the man who had rescued them, nurtured them, and imparted the skills necessary to navigate a world that had once sought to obliterate them. The quaint post office in the small town was filled with the scent of dust and aged paper. Callum adjusted his weathered leather jacket as he made his way to the counter, his footsteps resonating in the almost deserted building. The aged clerk glanced up from her crossword puzzle as he slid his final counterfeit ID across the worn counter. It was time to vanish, he murmured softly, perhaps more for his own ears than for hers. She hardly took a moment to look at the ID before handling his last piece of mail, a letter directed to a ghost box that would remain unopened. Outside, the spring air was laced with a subtle scent of diesel as Callum stepped onto the waiting bus. His solitary suitcase held all he required, meticulously chosen garments, a premium laptop, and the instruments of his craft concealed within unassuming containers. As the bus departed, he observed the town diminish in the window, yet another milestone in an extensive voyage. The metamorphosis into Calderon commenced long before the bus crossed the city boundaries. Callum's fingers danced deftly over his laptop keyboard, awakening dormant cryptocurrency wallets and embarking on the meticulous journey of crafting his new identity. Every transaction was meticulously calculated, crafting a nuanced yet discernible history that could endure examination. In the coming months, Calderon began to shine as a prominent figure in the hidden realm of finance. He began with modest moves, executing calculated trades that drew the interest of influential figures. His reputation flourished through hushed exchanges in elite venues and coded discussions online. He grasped the dialect of wealth and influence, the very dialect that had forged Victor Gray's dominion. Callum's strategy for penetrating Victor's investment firm was meticulous. He analyzed their trading patterns, pinpointed vulnerabilities in their strategy, and established himself as a source of valuable insights. The initial focus of his attention was the firm's CFO, Marcus Chin. Callum orchestrated a chance encounter at a financial conference, where he nonchalantly highlighted a market trend that resulted in significant savings for Chin's department. Chin admired the young analyst's keen intellect and composed presence. He remained oblivious to the way Callum's inquiries deftly steered discussions toward the firm's inner dynamics. Nor did he recognize how his seemingly helpful recommendations consistently matched the company's hidden requirements. In just 3 months, Chin found himself frequently turning to Calderon for guidance. The last move into Victor's inner circle unfolded when Callum executed a masterful save amid a market decline. His insightful analysis enabled the firm to sidestep a considerable loss, and Chin took the initiative to personally recommend him to Victor Gray as a prospective personal financial advisor. Victor's office stood just as Callum recalled from vintage magazine spreads, a striking blend of steel and glass, crafted to evoke a sense of awe. Yet Callum had dedicated years to ready himself for this very instant. He faced Victor's scrutinizing gaze with composed assurance, navigating intricate financial strategies as if it were second nature in the realm of high finance. "Your reputation certainly precedes you, Mr. Darren," Victor remarked, examining Callum's resume. "You appear rather youthful for someone with such remarkable insights." "I began my journey early," Callum responded with a subtle smile, his heart unwavering even in the presence of the man who had once sought to end his life 18 years prior. "Currency has consistently been my means of expression." That day, Victor made the decision to hire him. As Callum navigated the realm of high finance, Silas chose to embark on a contrasting journey. Under the name Sean Wells, he became part of Elite Care Services, the firm tasked with overseeing the upkeep of Victor's expansive estate. The interview was short, with the supervisor hardly glancing away from his phone, while Silas showcased his understanding of cleaning products and security protocols. Silas transformed into a mere whisper within the mansion's corridors. He operated with precision, seamlessly blending into the tapestry of the affluent family's existence, a mere shadow among the opulence. The other staff hardly acknowledged his presence, which was precisely what he desired. With each shift, he committed to memory the patterns, the moments when rooms lay vacant, the cameras that overlooked certain areas, and the rotation of the security team. Applying the techniques acquired from Lars, Silas discreetly placed small cameras in neglected nooks. Every device was meticulously positioned during his usual cleaning ritual, concealed in plain view. Through these quiet witnesses, he absorbed the cadence of the home and its dwellers. Victor's new family was an unexpected discovery. His wife Renee glided through the space like a specter, lovely yet remote. However, it was their daughter Nia who captivated Silas' interest. At 17, she possessed her father's striking features, yet they were softened by a more contemplative essence, as she lost herself for hours in the mansion's library. Occasionally, as Silas tidied up, she would offer him a slight nod, the sole member of the household who appeared to recognize the staff as individuals. In the stillness of the night, once their shifts had drawn to a close, the brothers reached out through their secure channel. Callum lounged in his sleek, contemporary apartment, while Silas dialed away on a burner phone from his humble room in the staff quarters. Their virtual chessboard illuminated their screens, a game they had engaged in for weeks, with each move meticulously contemplated. Silas' message emerged in the secured chat. "The river has summoned." Callum contemplated the chessboard for a moment before advancing his knight. His response was just as concise, and then we replied. The siblings had dedicated years to this pivotal moment, crafting their strategies, aligning themselves on the chessboard. Now, akin to the chess matches Lars had instructed them in, it was time to commence the genuine competition. Morning sunlight poured into Victor Gray's penthouse office, illuminating the space and creating elongated shadows on the sleek marble floor. Callum, now known as Calderon, adjusted his Italian silk tie with precision as he neared Victor's formidable desk. The quarterly report he held was the result of meticulous crafting, figures adjusted subtly to obscure specific transactions while bringing others into the spotlight. "The Q3 projections look exceptionally bright," Callum remarked, as he smoothly pushed the leather-bound portfolio across the desk. His voice held the perfect balance of assurance and respect that Victor was most receptive to. "I have pinpointed a number of emerging markets that seamlessly fit with our existing strategy." Victor reclined in his chair, the morning light glinting off his silver hair. He turned the pages with a skilled ease, acknowledging the meticulously designed graphs and forecasts. "Outstanding job, Cal. Your intuition for market trends consistently surpasses expectations." Callum permitted a subtle smile to grace his lips, skillfully holding back the icy satisfaction that sought to emerge in his gaze. "Thank you, kind sir. I have always held the conviction that a thorough approach is essential." In the coming weeks, Callum systematically expanded his sway within Victor's organization. He started by carefully modifying investment reports, steering minor yet impactful amounts of funds towards shell companies he had created years prior. Every transaction was meticulously concealed behind seemingly legitimate business dealings. During lunch breaks, Callum consistently took the opportunity to enjoy coffee with Harley, who had been Victor's executive assistant for many years. She was a perceptive woman in her 50s who had navigated numerous corporate upheavals thanks to her astute grasp of office dynamics. One day, as Callum stirred his coffee thoughtfully, he remarked on the inconsistencies he had observed in Thompson's latest proposals. "I'm certain it's trivial, yet..." Harley's gaze sharpened just a bit. "Thompson has always had a unique approach to his figures. What types of discrepancies are we talking about?" Callum revealed just enough information to sow uncertainty regarding the CFO's approach, fully aware that Harley would interpret it in her unique manner. In just a few days, she started examining Thompson's reports with greater intensity, generating precisely the internal friction that Callum sought. The stock panic was his crowning achievement of control. Callum discreetly shared a seemingly reliable piece of information regarding possible issues with a significant investment partner. The ensuing market fluctuation was subtle yet perceptible, raising concerns without prompting a thorough inquiry. "Sir," Callum exclaimed, rushing into Victor's office with a sense of deliberate urgency, "I've pinpointed the root of the issue and devised a solution, but swift action is essential." Victor's expression was strained as he examined Callum's rushed analysis. "How did you notice this so quickly?" Callum shared his observations on recurring trends in Asian markets, referencing the charts he had meticulously prepared months in advance for this very situation. "By acting swiftly, we can not only avert losses but also transform this situation to our benefit." Victor followed Callum's advice and made the necessary calls, and in just a few hours, everything was back on track. The event solidified Callum's role as Victor's most reliable financial advisor. In the hushed corridors of the mansion, Silas performed his tasks as Sean Wells with meticulous attention to detail. His cleaning routine provided an ideal opportunity to quietly witness the daily patterns of Victor's family life. He observed Nia, Victor's teenage daughter, with keen interest, taking note of how she would immerse herself for hours in the library, engrossed in her tablet, coding and reading, while her father toiled late and her mother engaged in a flurry of charity events. Silas observed Nia's moments with her parents through his concealed cameras. Victor's infrequent visits carried an air of formality and detachment, emphasizing academic performance and standards over any sense of emotional intimacy. Her mother glided through conversations like an enchanting specter, always present yet never fully engaged. One afternoon, as Silas tidied up the library, he gently let a USB drive slip from his fingers, landing near Nia's cherished reading nook. The drive bore the label "Old Photos," scrawled in a messy hand. He had meticulously placed one of his tiny cameras to flawlessly record her response upon discovering it. Later that day, Silas observed through the camera feed as Nia stumbled upon the drive. With a sense of intrigue, she lifted it, examining every angle with keen interest. With a brief pause, she connected it to her tablet. Silas understood that the drive held no threats, merely a collection of intriguing information that would spark her curiosity to explore further. The siblings upheld meticulous correspondence through their clever arrangement. In the stillness of the night, when the mansion lay in serene silence, Silas would quietly make his way into the laundry room as part of his cleaning duties. Concealed behind a loose panel in an aging dryer lay a modified shortwave radio, its signals meticulously encrypted. Far off, in a safety deposit box that Calderon had leased, a matching radio picked up his communications. "Victor is settling in nicely." One night, Callum's voice crackled through the concealed radio. "He's beginning to disclose more delicate details. What's the status of our other project?" "The seed is planted," Silas murmured, his voice a gentle hush. "She's inquisitive, embarking on her own investigation, delving into historical news archives. Flawless. Keep your distance. Allow her intrigue to take the lead." The late-night discussions were short yet essential, enabling the brothers to align their intricate scheme while preserving their individual facades. As the weeks unfolded, the meticulous foundation they had laid started to yield outcomes. Victor increasingly leaned on Callum's financial expertise, as Nia's late-night research sessions became more prolonged and concentrated. The siblings observed intently, each fulfilling their role in the intricate scheme they had meticulously crafted over the years. One evening, while Silas kept an eye on the camera feed from Victor's study, His phone vibrated with an encrypted message from Callum. Commence the second phase. Silas looked up at the screen, where Victor toiled away at his desk, oblivious to the unseen forces gathering in opposition. He offered a quiet nod, fully aware that a transformation was imminent. The twilight cast a gentle glow over the city skyline as Victor occupied the head of an elongated mahogany table in the exclusive dining room of LeBlanc, flanked by his board members. Crystal glasses chimed softly, while hushed conversations flowed gently beneath the soothing strains of jazz in the background. Callum, positioned by the entrance, cradled a leather portfolio against his chest, poised for the ideal moment to unfold. As Victor lifted his glass to suggest a toast celebrating the company's recent achievements, Callum stepped forward with a carefully measured uncertainty. "Excuse me, but I must bring to your attention an urgent matter that cannot wait." Victor's smile grew subtly strained as he set down his glass. "Isn't it possible to postpone this, Cal?" "It's about the Singapore merger," Callum remarked, his voice raised just enough for the nearby board members to catch his words. He flipped through his portfolio, his hands moving with a growing urgency as he rifled through the papers. "The updated figures were right here with me." The board members shared knowing looks. A throat was cleared. "Which figures are you referring to?" Victor's voice had taken on a sharpness now. "The updated forecasts indicating the—" Callum halted, allowing concern to seep into his demeanor. "I must have forgotten them in your office. The ones that display the true exposure levels." Victor's expression grew somber. "What levels of exposure?" "The matters we spoke about in confidence, sir." Callum's voice lowered, yet it remained just audible enough for others to catch his words. "Concerning the possible responsibilities?" The atmosphere became still. Board members fidgeted in their seats, while some attempted to seem engrossed in their food. Victor's grip on his glass tightened, his knuckles turning pale. "There are no such figures," Victor snapped, his voice escalating. "And there are no liabilities. Is this your approach to managing sensitive information? By raising imaginary issues at a private dinner?" "Sir, I—" But before he could finish, Victor stood abruptly, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. "You are free to leave for the evening. We will have a conversation about your ongoing role tomorrow." Callum inclined his head subtly and retreated, allowing authentic fear to manifest on his features. As he departed, he caught the sound of Victor trying to mend the situation with strained chuckles. Yet the harm had already been inflicted. Doubt had begun to take root. 3 days later, Marina Chun received an anonymous email containing photographs that made her sit up straight in her chair. The photographs captured Victor in different settings throughout the last 10 years. A secluded airstrip in the Cayman Islands, a quiet rendezvous in a Zurich hotel lobby, exchanges of handshakes with recognized intermediaries of offshore accounts. Included were documents indicating a trend of organized tax evasion and money laundering. The SEC's audit commenced subtly, yet its repercussions coursed through the company like vibrations preceding a seismic event. Investigators sought out documents, conducted interviews with staff, and posed increasingly direct inquiries regarding specific overseas transactions. Amidst the brewing tempest, Callum wove his delicate enchantment with Harley. He set up a rendezvous with her for their regular coffee, selecting a serene nook in the cafe of the building. "Have you observed Thompson behaving oddly recently?" he inquired, swirling his coffee with a contemplative air. Harley scowled. "What do you mean by that?" "The manner in which he has been engaging with the SEC team without prior notice to Victor, along with those late-night calls from his office, raises some concerns." Callum shrugged. "Likely just a trivial matter." "What calls are you referring to that happen late at night?" I thought you were already aware. He's been around after midnight multiple times this week, keeping it all very secretive." Harley's face grew stern. She had always looked out for Victor, and the thought of treachery from a trusted colleague clearly unsettled her. "I'll investigate it," she declared with conviction. As the drama unfolded in the office, Silas glided through the mansion like a whisper in the night. As he conducted his meticulous cleaning rounds, he discreetly positioned small listening devices behind the thick curtains in Victor's study and tucked them beneath the elaborate headboard in the master bedroom. Every device was nearly invisible, crafted to capture even the softest murmur. One afternoon, as Nia focused intently on her coding tasks in the library, Silas intentionally let a crumpled receipt fall near her feet. He had meticulously aged it, giving it an appearance of being worn and long overlooked. The receipt, originating from a pawn shop and dated back to 1999, bore a faint inscription in the corner. Bridge Street, written in faded ink. Nia lifted the paper, her fingers gliding over the handwritten note. Something about it drew her in, maybe the year or the street name that resonated with hidden meaning. She discreetly tucked it into her pocket, oblivious to Silas observing through his concealed camera. Victor's calm demeanor started to falter as the pressure intensified. Shadows gathered beneath his eyes, a testament to the relentless grip of sleepless nights. He began to scrutinize his office for hidden eavesdroppers, flinching at sudden noises, and doubting every exchange he had. In the stillness of the night, as he pored over the security footage from the mansion, Victor's keen eye caught something unusual. During his evening walk, the garden camera's timestamp unexpectedly advanced by 3 minutes. It was understated, easily overlooked by the average observer, yet Victor had cultivated an acute awareness of every nuance. He replayed the footage repeatedly, his hands trembling ever so slightly. His security system had been compromised, yet when he reached out to the security company, they discovered no signs of tampering. The cameras seemed to function flawlessly, and their records indicated no signs of unauthorized entry. Victor stood in his secluded bathroom, clutching the marble counter as he gazed at his reflection in the elaborate mirror. His face appeared thin, filled with a sense of unease. "Someone's observing me," he whispered, examining the darkness beneath his eyes. "They are perpetually observing." Suddenly, his phone buzzed, causing him to flinch. A blocked number appeared on the screen. Victor's hand shook slightly as he picked up the phone. A solitary whisper drifted in, gentle yet sharp as frost. "Do you recall the river?" The morning sun spilled its golden light into Victor's study, creating elongated shadows as he strode restlessly, his polished loafers tracing a route across the intricate patterns of the Persian rug. His hands shook as he extended toward his third cup of coffee, splattering drops onto his immaculate white shirt. "Victor, please," Renee implored from the threshold, her impeccably groomed fingers clutching the doorframe. "For weeks now, restful sleep has eluded you. This is not characteristic of you." "I'm fine," he snapped, yet his bloodshot eyes and disheveled appearance revealed a contrasting narrative. The typically pristine Victor Gray appeared to be coming apart at the edges. "You need assistance," Renee urged, her tone becoming gentler. "Expert assistance. What would happen if a board member caught sight of you in this state? Consider the organization, if for no other reason." Victor halted his restless movement, reflecting on her words. She was indeed correct. He couldn't afford to seem unsteady, especially with the SEC looming over him and murmurs of conspiracy echoing through the office halls. Later that day, he brought up the concept of therapy to Callum during their morning briefing. "Certainly, the importance of discretion was emphasized," Victor remarked, adjusting papers on his desk that were already in order. "I may have a connection," Callum suggested, his tone deliberately controlled. "Dr. Maeve Sullivan. Her expertise lies in managing stress for executives, and she is highly regarded for her commitment to confidentiality. A number of board members from various companies engage her services." In the week that followed, Victor found himself in Dr. Maeve's office, a thoughtfully arranged environment adorned with soft hues and inviting leather seating. The therapist was an impressive figure, her keen, watchful eyes appearing to pierce right through him, all while maintaining a soft and kind presence. "Share with me your sleeping patterns," she inquired, her tone gentle like a whispering breeze. Numerous leaders face interruptions in their sleep patterns as they navigate the effects of past trauma. "What about trauma?" Victor let out a derisive laugh. "I created my legacy from the ground up. Achievement isn't a source of pain. At times, the current of recollection runs deep," she remarked, observing the way his grip on the armrest intensified. "We frequently encounter voids in our memories, areas where overlooked transgressions may linger. With each passing session, Dr. Maeve intricately crafted her thoughtful tapestry of suggestions. Her words, meticulously selected, subtly nudged Victor's thoughts toward that fateful, rain-soaked night in 1999, without ever explicitly referencing the bridge or the twins. The mind has its defenses, she would assert, yet the current of reality inevitably rises to the top. In the meantime, Callum had crafted yet another intricate scheme of deceit. With meticulous planning alongside a pharmaceutical associate, he orchestrated the substitution of Victor's antidepressants with nuanced compounds that sparked vivid dreams and emotional turbulence. The impacts revealed themselves swiftly. Victor began to notice fleeting shapes at the edges of his sight, accompanied by soft murmurs echoing in vacant spaces. His emotional fluctuations intensified, oscillating between fierce outbursts and moments of deep, paranoid retreat. On a notably charged morning, Victor confronted his longtime housekeeping manager, alleging that she had taken his cufflinks, a cherished family heirloom he claimed had been resting on his dresser the previous night. In a shocking turn of events, Victor dismissed her immediately, disregarding the manager's objections and her 2 decades of dedicated service. The cufflinks were eventually discovered in his coat pocket, yet he remained steadfast in denying his error. Silas, in the meantime, carried out his own meticulous maneuvers within the mansion. He meticulously revised the maintenance logs to unveil a sequence of inexplicable disturbances. The elevator halted between floors, ensnaring Victor for several minutes before it inexplicably resumed its journey. The lights in the East Wing would flicker and fade during his solitary strolls at night. The security system would activate inexplicably, consistently when Victor found himself alone. Every incident seemed trivial, easily dismissed as mere technical glitches. Yet, collectively, they wove a tapestry of doubt that left Victor perpetually uneasy. Amidst this psychological turmoil, Nia's inquisitiveness drew her into a shadowy journey. The crumpled receipt ignited a thought in her mind, a question that lingered persistently. In the stillness of the night, she found herself in her room, the soft glow of her laptop casting a gentle light on her features as she diligently entered the phrase, 1999 bridge incident, into multiple search engines. After countless hours sifting through archived news sites and public records, she finally uncovered it. A police report from 20 years past, significantly obscured yet partially legible. The location aligned precisely with the place where her father continued to fish each summer, a fact that churned her stomach. The report indicated a potential child drowning, with possibly 2 victims involved, yet many of the essential details were obscured. What lingered was an account of tiny footprints imprinted in the mud by the riverbank, accompanied by a testimony from a local who claimed to have heard screams amidst the thunderstorm. As Nia gazed at the document, fragments of a hidden puzzle started to align in her mind. Her father's yearly fishing excursions to that particular location, his determination to go solo, and the manner in which he would come back silent and distant, all acquired a dark and unsettling significance. The weight of psychological pressure culminated at midnight as Victor's shaking fingers reached for Callum's number. His voice trembled with urgency as he spoke. "Someone is attempting to ruin me," he murmured into the phone, nestled in his shadowy study. "The very board I once trusted is now plotting against me. My team is colluding with external parties. My own home feels unsafe now. All of them are included in it. They have to be." Callum's reply was fluid and deliberate, akin to a blade sheathed in velvet. "What if it's you?" The inquiry lingered in the atmosphere surrounding them, laden with significance. Victor felt a tightness in his throat as long-buried memories began to resurface, pushing against the walls of his mind. The heaviness of delicate forms cradled in his embrace, the rhythmic patter of rain against a metal structure, the haunting splash that lingered in his dreams for 2 decades. The Sunday morning sun streamed through the mansion's towering windows, creating elongated shadows that danced across the gleaming marble floors. Silas glided through the guest wing, his steps hushed by a lifetime of skill. He was well acquainted with Nia's routines. In this place, she found refuge from her father's stifling presence, yearning for solitude amidst the forgotten rooms and the dust-laden antiques. With careful attention, he set a manila envelope on the vintage writing desk by the window. The envelope bore the marks of time, its edges intentionally frayed to evoke a sense of history, with security backup, 1999, scrawled in a faded black marker. He set it at a precise angle to capture the morning light, ensuring it was impossible to overlook. Silas glanced at his watch, 9:15 a.m., perfectly on time. Nia was on her way, eager to find her familiar Sunday morning refuge. He vanished silently, like a specter, leaving behind no evidence of his existence. Shortly thereafter, Nia made her way into the guest wing, her laptop securely held under her arm. She halted as her eyes fell upon the envelope, a surge of curiosity washing over her. The young girl moved forward with hesitation, her fingertips gliding across the textured surface of the paper before she gently tore open the seal. Within, she discovered a USB drive along with multiple printed still images that seemed to be extracted from security footage. The images appeared grainy and distorted, yet they were distinct enough to reveal a familiar figure. Her father, 2 decades younger, standing on what seemed to be a bridge. With quivering fingers, Nia slid the drive into her laptop. The video commenced, displaying a timestamp of 2347, September 15, 1999. Amidst the crackling and distorted visuals, she observed her father's youthful figure step out of a vehicle, pulling 2 small, resisting shapes along the bridge. Her breath hitched as she identified the bridge, the very one detailed in the police report she had discovered. The visuals were shadowy and warped, yet there was no doubt about what she was witnessing. Her father, typically so composed and dignified, was now clumsily managing 2 frightened little ones. The video abruptly ended as Victor raised the children toward the railing. Nia remained still, her hand covering her mouth, tears cascading down her cheeks. After several hours, she discovered her mother in the conservatory, nurturing her beloved orchids. Renee glanced up when Nia walked in, instantly observing the redness around her daughter's eyes and her wan appearance. "Nia, my dear, what seems to be the matter?" Renee placed her watering can aside, worry creasing her brow. "Mom," Nia's voice trembled, "I need to ask you something about 1999, about 2 boys. The hue faded from Renee's complexion, and she staggered back, bracing herself against the rim of a planter. "Where did you go? How did you get there? Who were they, Mom?" Nia insisted, her tone more assertive now. "What became of the twins?" Renee sank into a nearby chair, her meticulously crafted facade falling apart. According to Victor, they were meant to have perished during childbirth. He claimed it was an error, a fleeting romance, yet the infants had not made it. Her voice trembled. "I trusted him completely. I never dared to inquire. He was so adamant that we keep it unspoken. However, they weren't born lifeless, were they?" Nia's words lingered ominously, and Renee could only shake her head, tears streaming down her face. "I had no idea," she murmured. "I promise I truly didn't know." In the heart of the city, within the walls of Victor's corporate headquarters, Callum was orchestrating yet another meticulously strategized maneuver. He made his way to Marcus Chun, a mid-level manager recognized for his penchant for chatter and drive, in the break room. "Have you observed anything? What's been going on with Mr. Gray lately?" Callum inquired softly, ensuring that others could hear him without being too near. Marcus furrowed his brow. "What are you trying to say?" Callum retrieved his phone, displaying meticulously chosen surveillance footage of Victor's latest outbursts. After 2 decades, he let Sandra go over some cuff links that were actually in his pocket. Now, he finds himself conversing with no one in his office. And these messages, he presented a collection of fabricated messages that illustrated progressively unstable conduct. Marcus's eyes widened. This was serious, and the board needed to be informed. "They already do," Callum interjected seamlessly. "He has been placed under observation. But let's keep this under wraps, all right? Our intention is not to incite alarm." As the day drew to a close, murmurs regarding Victor's mental condition had permeated every department. The board members started to get anxious calls from different managers, each sharing similar accounts of erratic behavior. Within Dr. Maeve's office, the tension persisted to escalate. Victor sat tense in his familiar chair, his knuckles pale as he clutched the armrests. Dr. Maeve spoke gently, noting your dreams about water, concerning the interplay of rain and bridges. What do you believe makes these images linger in your mind, Victor? Halt, he murmured. Who were those boys, Victor? Her voice carried a soft yet unwavering quality. What transpired that evening? Victor's mask finally shattered. 2 decades of meticulously built barriers collapsed as he bent forward, his frame shaking with tears. I didn't mean to, he gasped. I found myself with no alternatives. They could have destroyed it all. What about my reputation? What lies ahead for me? I was left with no options. Dr. Maeve observed him unravel, her keen gaze capturing every nuance of his revelation. She chose not to press on. It was unnecessary. The seed had split apart, and the truth was starting to emerge. In a cramped space brimming with screens, Silas observed various feeds at once. His attention was riveted on Nia's laptop screen, where she had halted the footage at the precise moment Victor approached the bridge railing. Her face was bathed in the screen's blue glow as she gazed at the still image of her father and 2 young boys. Who were they, exactly? She murmured into the shadows, oblivious to the fact that Silas could catch every syllable through the strategically hidden microphones. A faint smile played on Silas' lips as he observed her. Everything was aligning perfectly. The truth was at last surfacing from the shadows where it had remained hidden for ages. The moment had arrived. The morning sun poured through the penthouse windows, illuminating Victor as he sat at his grand oak dining table, mindlessly stirring his coffee. Beside the untouched breakfast of poached eggs and fresh fruit, his tablet rested quietly. A sudden jolt from the device caused him to flinch, coffee spilling over the edge of his cup. The notification banner spanned the entire screen. Latest update. A whistleblower has disclosed CEO Victor Gray's ties to offshore money laundering and a file concerning a disappearance from 1999. Victor's hand quivered as he pressed the alert. His face lost all color as he read through the article, each word striking him like a tangible blow. Images, papers, financial records, all exposed for everyone to observe. Amidst the layers of the expose, a blurred photograph emerged, capturing a bridge shrouded in the mystery of a rainy night. His phone started to ring nonstop. Board members, attorneys, public relations teams, all seeking clarity. However, just as he was about to address any of the matters at hand, the resignation letter from his CFO appeared in his inbox. The note was short yet profoundly impactful. In light of recent ethical conflicts that have emerged, I find it necessary to submit my immediate resignation. Victor hardly had a moment to absorb the situation when Nia stormed into the dining room, her laptop held tightly against her chest, tears cascading down her cheeks. Renee trailed closely, her typical poise beginning to falter. What is this all about? Nia's voice trembled as she flipped open her laptop, positioning it to confront her father. The security footage started to roll, shadowy and blurred yet undeniably clear. Victor observed as he pulled 2 tiny silhouettes across the bridge. It's nothing, Victor replied instinctively, his tone empty. A concoction, an attempt to undermine me. Nia's hand struck the table with force as she declared, "Stop lying. I discovered the police report. I uncovered it all." Renee advanced, her complexion pale and drained. "Victor, please say it isn't true. Tell me you didn't do this." Her voice faltered. "They're dead," Victor suddenly shouted, leaping to his feet. His coffee cup fell to the ground, breaking into pieces. "They are gone, they are gone, they are gone." His voice reverberated through the mansion's corridors, ricocheting off the marble and glass. In his concealed observation chamber, Silas observed the drama play out on various displays. His face showed no emotion, yet his hands tightened subtly as he watched his father's collapse. Through the high-definition cameras, he observed every twitch, every bead of sweat on Victor's face as his meticulously crafted reality started to unravel. In the corporate headquarters across town, Callum navigated with meticulous precision. His fingers danced over the keyboard, executing the crisis protocols he had meticulously crafted months prior. As Victor typed away, his access to the company's systems was subtly stripped away, with authority shifting through the channels that Callum had in his grasp. A jittery IT technician named Mr. Darren stood at his door. "The board is inquiring about the suspension of Mr. Gray's credentials." "Standard crisis protocol," Callum responded effortlessly, his gaze fixed on the screen. "It is essential to safeguard the company's assets in the event of any possible investigation. The authorization forms are right here with me." He presented a folder filled with impeccably crafted documents. In the quiet of her office, Dr. Maeve immersed herself in the selected clips from Victor's therapy sessions, analyzing each moment with keen attention. Her expression stayed neutral as she gathered the most incriminating instances. Victor's bewildered musings on the river, his confessions of wrongdoing, his frantic efforts to rationalize his behavior. "There seems to be an issue with the boys." Victor's voice resonated in her headphones. "I never intended. I had to safeguard all that I had created." She meticulously packaged the clips, incorporating her insightful analysis, and dispatched them to the legal team that had been discreetly formed months prior. The atmosphere surrounding the Gray mansion became more frenzied as news vans and reporters converged at the gates. Camera flashes illuminated the night like bolts of lightning as Victor's car drew near. Security attempted to forge a passage, yet reporters surged ahead, vociferously demanding answers. "Mr. Gray, did you make an attempt on the lives of your unacknowledged sons? What transpired on the bridge that evening? What is the true source of the money?" Victor's grip finally shattered. As a reporter extended a microphone in his direction, he reacted fiercely, his fist striking the young man's jaw. The audience inhaled sharply. Shutters clicked in rapid succession. The incident of aggression was recorded from multiple perspectives, swiftly disseminating through all prominent channels. Within the confines of the mansion, Nia sat transfixed, her laptop displaying the footage in an endless loop, each replay deepening her sense of unease. Renee sat beside her, silent tears streaming down her cheeks as she gazed at the unfamiliar figure her husband had transformed into. An emergency meeting was convened by the board. In a matter of hours, a statement was issued. In light of recent developments and issues regarding personal behavior, Victor Gray will be stepping down from his role as CEO effective immediately. That night, the corporate offices loomed vacant and shadowy, save for a single window glowing high above the city. Callum perched at his desk, bathed in the soft blue light of his monitor. Before him lay the ultimate piece of their intricate strategy. A thorough account of each illicit transaction, every concealed account, and every occurrence of deceit and manipulation over the course of 20 years. His finger lingered just above the send button. Within the attached folders, you will find evidence for the SEC outlining securities fraud, documentation for the FBI uncovering money laundering operations, and comprehensive financial records for the IRS revealing years of tax evasion. Callum reminisced about Lars instructing them in chess on that weathered porch. He always emphasized the importance of patience. The concluding action must be conclusive. With a simple click, the files were dispatched. The email whooshed away, its sound reverberating through the vacant office. A digital signal poised to unleash a cascade of repercussions by dawn. From the vantage of the mansion's cameras, Silas observed Victor pacing in his study. Phone clutched to his ear as he urgently sought favors, striving to keep a grip on the situation. Yet the anguished figure on the screen had transformed, no longer embodying the terror that haunted their dreams. He was merely a man, disintegrating as his deceptions came undone. The night deepened, and the tempest they had anticipated for 18 years finally unleashed its fury upon the Gray family empire. Truth, much like water, will inevitably rise to the surface, regardless of how deeply it is concealed. The morning sun stretched its rays, creating elongated shadows that danced through the mansion's windows, yet failed to infuse any warmth into the frigid ambience within. Victor lingered by his study window, his reflection hauntingly faint against the glass. 3 days of stubble shadowed his jaw, and his weary eyes flickered between the secured gates and the throng of reporters lingering outside. His typically pristine suit was creased, a result of having dozed off on his office couch. Down the hall, An eerie stillness enveloped the areas once vibrant with the essence of family life. Renee glided through the house, a whisper of movement, her gaze slipping away whenever she neared Victor's study. Since the revelation of the footage, she had remained utterly silent around him, her quietness carrying a weight heavier than any accusation could. Their daughter's vacant room resonated with a profound sense of loss. Nia had prepared a bag the previous night, expressing a need for solitude to reflect. She was residing in her friend Emma's apartment on the other side of town. Victor's phone vibrated, illuminating Callum's name on the display. "Sir." Callum's voice trembled with a sense of urgency. "It's time to tune into the news." At this moment, Victor struggled to find the remote, his hands trembling as he hit the power button. The screen sprang to life, displaying real-time helicopter footage of the corporate headquarters. Shadowy cars encircled the structure. Individuals clad in suits and windbreakers emblazoned with FBI and SEC insignias surged through the entrance. "What's going on?" Victor's voice trembled. "They're taking everything," Callum remarked, his voice laced with a calculated urgency. "They've been observing you for years, meticulously constructing a case against you. The whistleblower has just provided them with the crucial information they were missing." Victor sank into his leather chair, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He whispered the accounts. "It's time to transfer the funds." At this moment, "I've already initiated the emergency protocols," Callum responded. "Please provide your authorization code for the Cayman transfers." Victor recited a series of numbers, his voice quivering with emotion. "Transfer all items to the private account we talked about. Everything. I am currently addressing it, sir." The clatter of fingers dancing across the keyboard echoed through the phone. "Completed. The funds are currently in the process of being transferred." What Victor failed to notice was Callum's serene smile as he skillfully channeled the substantial amount into a meticulously organized charitable foundation. The documents identified Nia Gray as the exclusive trustee, fortified by unassailable legal safeguards that would ensure the funds remained beyond Victor's grasp indefinitely. In the east wing of the mansion, Silas was wrapping up his last assignment. Clad in his janitor's uniform, he received his termination notice alongside many other employees, all victims of the company's abrupt turmoil. Before handing over his keys, he took a final journey to Nia's room. The package he left was unassuming, a manila envelope resting gently on her pillow. Within, he carefully placed a handwritten letter alongside a selection of photographs, capturing moments of the twins as they grew up, all taken by Lars. Celebrations marked by improvised cakes, chess games on the porch, two boys transitioning into manhood. Inseparable, ever observant, perpetually scheming. Later that afternoon, Nia made a quick trip home to gather additional clothes. The house now seemed alien, stained by hidden truths and deception. She halted at her bedroom door, her eyes catching the envelope right away. Her hands quivered as she unsealed it. The photographs cascaded across her bed. Two boys so youthful with eyes that seemed to tell a story. Her siblings from her father's side. The reality of their being struck her once more, intense and unrefined. She opened the letter, absorbing the meticulous script. "You were the sole pure one. He seized our existence. We took his." Nia covered her mouth with her hand, suppressing a cry. Everything fell into alignment. The enigmatic financial advisor, the understated janitor who appeared to blend seamlessly into the surroundings. They had been present from the very beginning, subtly engineering their father's demise from the inside. As dusk settled in, Nia felt compelled to make her way to the bridge. The bridge captured in the footage appeared transformed in the fading light. She parked her car and made her way to the center, each step measured and intentional. The metal railing felt icy against her fingertips as she perched there, her legs swinging freely over the edge, a spot where the security camera had ceased to capture moments long ago. The photograph bore creases from being clutched so tightly. Two young boys beamed up at her, siblings she was unaware of until now. A family that had been taken from her before she even drew her first breath. A single tear traced a path down her cheek, plummeting into the abyss of the dark water beneath. As the evening light faded, Silas found himself amidst the trees at the bridge's edge. He observed his half-sister grieve for the family that was never hers, for the revelation that had fractured her reality. His expression was unreadable, yet his gaze conveyed a profound comprehension and a hint of remorse, not for Victor's downfall, but for the anguish it inflicted upon her. After a prolonged pause, Silas averted his gaze from the bridge and stepped into the encroaching shadows, allowing Nia to remain in her solitude and sorrow. The rain hammered relentlessly against the windows of City Hall as Victor Gray staggered down the marble steps, his tie askew and his costly suit drenched completely. His eyes flickered with intensity, scanning for unseen dangers as journalists pressed their microphones closer, eager for a response. "Mr. Gray, would you be able to provide your insights on the federal investigation? What is the situation with the offshore accounts? Is it true that you are resigning from your position as CEO, sir?" Yet Victor remained oblivious to their inquiries. His thoughts wandered, ensnared in a cycle of recollection and chaos. The rush of water enveloped him, silencing all other sounds. "The river boys!" he shouted suddenly, causing the reporters to step back. They returned. "Can't you understand? They seem to be all around." His hands reached out desperately, grasping at the invisible threads of a reality known only to him. As the security guards advanced, Victor pivoted sharply, his voice escalating into a piercing shriek. "My own guide, the custodian, they were present all the while." Saliva sprayed from his mouth as he pointed an accusatory finger at the audience. "Deception, they seek to obliterate my existence." Two police officers advanced carefully, their hands lifted in a soothing manner. Victor's eyes darted frantically in their sockets as he pressed himself against a pillar. "The span. The liquid element. I can perceive it. Always listen closely." In just a matter of minutes, paramedics showed up with a stretcher in tow. Victor struggled against their attempts to assist him, shouting about vengeance and torrents until the sedative finally subdued him. The final image that lingered in his mind as awareness slipped away was a multitude of devices capturing his unraveling, transmitting his descent into despair to the masses. 3 days later, Victor found himself in a stark white room at the Oakwood Heights Psychiatric Facility, a high-security institution renowned for its discretion with affluent patients. The window featured reinforced glass, and the furniture was securely bolted down. He donned gentle cotton garments in place of his fitted suits, and his once commanding presence had diminished into something fragile and tormented. The visions began on the very first night. Moist footprints emerged on the floor, small bare feet leaving a trail of water across the linoleum. They vanished with each blink, only to materialize in another location. At times, the laughter of children reached his ears, reverberating softly from the shadows of his room. Yet the most unbearable aspect was the relentless sound of rushing water, as though a river coursed through the very walls. On the 4th day, Dr. May paid him a visit. She occupied the chair opposite him, her posture immaculate, her expression a mystery. Victor gazed at her, his eyes tinged with a weary red. "The medication isn't working," he whispered. "The echoes linger in my mind." "The water." Dr. Maeve observed him quietly, her stillness amplifying his sense of urgency. He implored for assistance. "End this now. Send them packing." She tilted her head slightly, examining him with the intrigue of a keen observer. "You remember now," she said, her voice gentle yet resolute. The 3 words lingered in the space between them, laden with significance. She rose and departed, her heels echoing down the corridor, leaving Victor in solitude with his specters. As Victor spiraled in solitude, Callum systematically tore apart the final remnants of his financial kingdom. In his makeshift office, he toiled through the night, coordinating the sale of Victor's remaining shell companies. Every transaction unfolded with precision, remaining untraceable as it directed to disparate buyers spanning various continents. Digits cascaded on his display as he dismantled years of meticulous effort, stripping Victor's concealed fortune bare. The final transfer was finalized at the break of dawn. Callum reclined in his chair, observing as the sunrise brushed the city skyline with hues of gold. He reminisced about chess matches on Lars' porch, contemplating the art of strategizing 10 moves in advance. A faint smile played at the corners of his mouth as he meticulously cleared his browser history, uninstalled his encryption software, and erased the computer's hard drive. By noon, Calderon would no longer be a part of this world. Far off, on a rugged stretch of shoreline, Silas found himself before an unadorned granite marker. Lars' grave gazed out over the ocean, a place where they had spent their youth, mastering the art of withstanding the chill of the water and the tumult of the waves. The elderly man had imparted to them that the natural world served as both an instructor and a tool of power. It was appropriate that he found solace in this place, where earth embraced the ocean. Silas ignited one of Lars' cherished cigars, shielding the flame from the salty breeze with his hand. The smoke intertwined with the ocean mist as he recalled those early morning runs along the beach, Lars urging them to be quicker, more resilient, more astute, imparting the lesson that patience could be more lethal than fury. The breeze lifted the ashes from Silas's cigar as he tapped it, sending the gray remnants drifting over the water's surface. He observed their vanishing figures, reflecting on the countless mornings Lars had spent in this very spot with them, strategizing their comeback to the world that had sought to engulf them. In a bustling downtown office, a weary private investigator named Sarah Chun rubbed her exhausted eyes. Nia Gray had engaged her services to locate Calderon and Sean Wells. Yet after weeks of investigation, she found herself with no leads. Their writings were flawless yet ultimately unproductive. Their backgrounds were intricate yet faded away upon closer examination. Their social media presence had completely disappeared, reduced to mere broken links and erased accounts. It felt as if they were specters, she confided in Nia during their last encounter. They lingered for a fleeting moment, drawing near to your father, only to vanish into thin air. Whoever they truly were, they possessed an uncanny ability to vanish without a trace. Nia nodded, her expression one of quiet understanding. She had anticipated this result, had an innate sense that her brothers would evade any trace. A part of her felt a sense of relief. Their vengeance was fulfilled, yet they had relieved her of the weight of discovering their whereabouts. At Oakwood Heights, Victor found himself in his last therapy session, fixated on the stark white wall before him. The visions had diminished over the years, yet comprehension emerged in their stead, a stark clarity more unsettling than any illusion. "They didn't want me dead," he murmured, his voice rough from neglect. "They wished for my erasure." The reality enveloped him, heavy and suffocating. His fortune had vanished, his standing in society obliterated, his loved ones fractured. The boys he attempted to forget had ultimately managed to make him forget himself. Dr. Maeve paused thoughtfully, collecting her notebook. She lingered at the threshold, casting a glance back at the empty figure of the man who had once dominated boardrooms and shaped markets to his desires. Now he was merely another patient, wandering through the sterile labyrinth of institutional hallways, diminished to murmuring about rivers and vengeance. Silently, she pivoted and departed, her steps dwindling like the final whispers of Victor Gray's past existence. A year passed, and an unmarked envelope found its way to Nia's apartment. Within the confines of the room, she discovered a modest brass key, its tag inscribed solely with the numbers 2317. No identity, no funds, no way to trace back, just the chill of steel resting in her hand, laden with unexpressed significance. After 3 days of diligent searching, she finally located the appropriate bank. The manager guided her to an exclusive viewing room, his actions deliberate and formal as he opened the safety deposit box. "Take your time," he said, gently shutting the door behind him. Nia's hands quivered as she raised the lid. Within were 3 objects, meticulously arranged with an eye for detail. A time-worn wooden chessboard, its squares deepened in hue by countless games played. A weathered military medal, its ribbon worn yet whole, accompanied by a cream-colored envelope holding a solitary sheet of paper. Her fingers grazed the chessboard, tracing the grooves etched by the countless pieces that had traversed its surface. The timber carried echoes of tactics and endurance, of wisdom gained in quietude. In the gentle glow of the viewing room, She could nearly perceive ethereal hands shifting the pieces. Next, her gaze was captured by the metal. It bore a weighty presence, adorned with opal psyops, and inscribed with a date from long ago. She recalled it from her studies, an elite operations unit, with the majority of its documentation still under wraps. Lars' metal, she understood, belonged to the man who had rescued her brothers and imparted the skills they needed to rescue themselves. At last, she unfolded the letter. The handwriting exhibited precision and restraint, yet it conveyed an undercurrent of feeling through its deliberate lines. Revenge isn't merely about bringing someone to their end. It's about ensuring they endure the consequences of their actions. Nia reclined, exhaling a breath she hadn't known she was holding in. These were not merely items. They conveyed a message, a concluding fragment of the narrative. Her brothers weren't seeking connection or forgiveness. They were revealing to her the reasons behind it. Revenge transcended mere death or destruction. It was fundamentally about justice, compelling an individual to confront their own reality. In the ensuing months, Nia directed her inheritance, the funds Callum had discreetly redirected from Victor's accounts, into a purpose of significance. She founded the River Bridge Foundation, a scholarship initiative aimed at supporting children who have endured trauma or abuse. The logo of the foundation showcased two tiny handprints, almost imperceptible unless one was aware to seek them out. When reporters inquired about the name, Nia adopted a thoughtful manner of expressing her thoughts on the subject. Some individuals believe that spirits are merely about haunting, she would assert, her voice unwavering and articulate, yet at times they are about rescuing others from maturing oblivious to truth and justice. She refrained from naming her brothers explicitly, never asserting knowledge of their locations. Yet in each interview, she paid tribute to their narrative without revealing it. The foundation exists as a testament to the idea that our darkest moments need not define us. Instead, they can serve as a catalyst to inspire us to shield others from experiencing similar suffering. In the stillness of a secluded coastline, far removed from the hustle of the city, Callum and Silas crafted an alternative existence. They selected a quaint fishing village, a place where the locals kept to themselves, and inquiries about the past were deemed rather rude. With fresh identities, meticulously designed with the same skill they had employed to dismantle Victor's empire, they launched a boutique consulting firm. Their workspace was situated on the uppermost level of a vintage lighthouse keeper's residence, providing a stunning view of the ocean below. They engaged with a curated group of clients, primarily small enterprises seeking strategic direction. Their reputation blossomed gradually, organically, the reserved siblings capable of unraveling any challenge, envisioning 10 steps forward while remaining in the shadows. Victor was no longer a topic of conversation. His name had blurred into the background, overshadowed by discussions of client endeavors and the latest fishing reports. Their vengeance was carried out with the meticulousness Lars instilled in them, not to obliterate, but to transform the very fabric of existence. One morning, Callum strolled along the beach as part of his customary dawn ritual. The tide receded, unveiling a canvas of smooth, dark sand. He paused as he noticed impressions in the damp ground. Not haphazard designs, but intentional strokes etched with a piece of driftwood. Advanced the pawn to e4. He raised his gaze, surveying the fog-laden coast. Silas lingered by the water's edge, his hands tucked into his pockets, a faint smile discernible even from afar. He nodded once, a simple motion that spoke volumes of their long history together. As dusk settled in, they found themselves on their time-worn porch, an aged wooden chessboard laid out before them. It wasn't Lars' board. That one was securely held by Nia, yet it embodied the same essence. Salt air danced around them as Callum extended his hand toward a white pawn. Silas ignited one of his cigars, the very brand that Lars had preferred. The smoke intertwined with the ocean breeze, evoking memories of past games and lessons learned. Behind them, waves crashed against the shore in a steady rhythm, echoing the flow of water yet devoid of the shadowy echoes of their history. The river that had molded their existence was now hundreds of miles distant, its waters having long since blended with the expansive ocean that stretched out before them. Yet, like every river, It had shaped its course, transformed its surroundings, and moved unavoidably toward a greater destination. The siblings had taken inspiration from it, transforming, evolving, and ultimately discovering tranquility in the infinite expanse where the sea kissed the sky. Callum's hand lingered above the pawn, poised for the inaugural move of a fresh game, anticipation hanging in the air. The tranquility stretched out beneath the fading light, serving as a boundary between what was and what is. The village embraced the evening, slipping into its familiar rhythms. Fishing boats glide back to the harbor, children are summoned home for dinner, and seabirds make their last graceful arcs over the water. The moment encapsulated the entirety of their journey, spanning the bridge to Lars' cabin, the meticulous planning to flawless execution, and the transformation from revenge to resolution. Yet that burden had become an integral part of the structure they had established, as steadfast as the lighthouse standing tall behind them. Silas flicked his cigar against the ashtray, his gaze fixed on the orange sun descending toward the water. The tranquil ocean stretched out before them, its surface shimmering with golden reflections, akin to a flawless mirror. It bore no resemblance to the wild river of their youth, yet it imparted the same wisdom Lars had shared with them. Water molds all it encounters, not by sheer strength, but through unwavering determination and calm endurance. The chessboard lingered in the space between them, its squares brimming with endless potential. Neither retribution nor fairness, no opportunity for retaliation. Two brothers, a classic game, and the ceaseless rhythm of waves, echoing like the ticking of Lars' time-worn chess clock.